sir.
Mics are on. Is Bill or Bill?
We ready, Laura?
Florida, Arizona, we couldn't figure that out yet.
Okay. It's
I'd like to
very
welcome everyone to our December 13th Planning Commission meeting. The chair recognizes a quorum. If you all would please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item is approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? Questions or corrections? We'll call for a motion.
Kenny Hill makes motion we approve the November 8th minutes.
Approved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Did you get that, Michelle? Don't fight over it, guys. Motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
I abstain. Was here, not
Two
here.
abstentions?
Yeah, I was
Sorry.
not here. Yeah, three.
You were bad.
Fred Roberts wasn't here either. Well, you got him anyway.
That's why I didn't ask. Motion still carries. We're good. Next is approval of agenda. Any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, I will call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
Dustin seconds. All in favor of approval of agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Before we get started, is there any conflict of interest on any of the items from the board tonight? No? Okay. We'll move right on to new business. Item A, public hearing on Unified Development Ordinance. This is a public hearing for the proposed Morgan County Unified Development Ordinance. The ordinance will replace the county's current zoning and subdivision control ordinance. Ms. Williams, would you like to come forward?
Thank you guys very much. All right. I'm Amy Williams with Taylor Seeker Williams Design Group and have been working with the county for almost a year now to go through a process to revise the zoning and subdivision control ordinances into a UDO, or a Unified Development Ordinance, and also do a few other things that go along with that, including amending the zoning map or replacing the zoning map, and then also doing some fee schedules, helping to update permits and applications with Laura, and then we'll do some marketing brochures as well with the most frequently asked questions that we can get on your new website, so that maybe that will help answer questions and folks won't always have to call in to get an answer to some of those items. So tonight we're here to talk about the UDO and also the zoning map to begin with. I was going to give a quick overview. I know that the majority of you guys have either sat on the committee or have sat through. We had a local officials training a couple weeks ago where folks were able to, again, we had about, it was 2 hours or so to sit through a meeting where we went through more of kind of the nitty gritty of a lot of these things. So I have told Terry I would remain brief unless you guys do have questions. We can pull up the actual document and go through anything you may need. So tonight I wanted to at least touch on the UDO, the zoning map, and then the fee schedule as well. So first, to start with the UDO, really what is a UDO? It is just your zoning ordinance, it's your subdivision control ordinance, and then it's just put into one document. So it's combined definitions, combined introductory provisions, and those sort of things to help to reduce inconsistency across the documents. We started this in January, as I mentioned, and the goal is to wrap up here in December. We had 7 technical meetings, committee meetings, so that was, those varied. They were usually at least 2 hours. One of them was closer to probably 7 or 8 hours here to really get through that last big push. We also had a focus group meeting with local developers, builders, and engineers to get their opinions. And then we did have a public open house and online survey as well to allow everybody else to come in, give thoughts and input as well. So you now have, your UDO would be 8 chapters, and I'm going to briefly just tell you what is part of each chapter. If you guys, I'm flipping too many times here. If you guys have questions, we can definitely go into any of those. I know you have had copies of the document itself, but that first chapter, really the purpose of that is just set up the basic provisions for doing zoning subdivision controls within Morgan County, your jurisdiction. So where do we apply? Transition policies are just if someone has already submitted an application to the Planning Commission for BZA, what rules do they follow? So if you've already submitted prior to this being official, you follow the old rules unless you want to opt into the new. And then just general administration, that you do have an administrator, which would be Laura. You have a number of different committees that go through. You also have your BZA, as well as, again, some of those PC committees, which is like your design review. That second chapter is really about non-conforming. So it just means if something does not now conform with this ordinance, it can either be legal non-conforming, which means pretty much what you guys have today, or it can be illegal, meaning it was never legal to begin with. So it's still not legal today, or after the adoption of this ordinance. So that just goes through what the protocol and procedures are for that, and just better defines it than probably what was stated maybe currently. That third chapter is really where the meat of a lot of the ordinance is. That's where we go through all of our zoning districts, and also we go through our use standards. So our zoning districts, the goal there was really to help to maybe condense some of those, especially your residential districts. I believe we had 8 residential districts previously. So we've consolidated those down to be more of what would be more fitting in what you actually need and use. So we debated at length on those through various committee members, and then also got input from those focus groups and then the public on those as well. The second half of that, oh, and I kind of did want to highlight your current zoning districts to your new one. Somebody says, okay, I'm agricultural 1 today. What does that mean I am tomorrow? So wanted to at least highlight this because that does transition into your zoning map as well. So today you have a number of districts, and then we've got a number of new districts within this ordinance. So basically your agriculture, your A1 today, it got split into 2 different districts. We have a general ag, which would be your A1 today, but we've also added what we've called intensive agricultural. So it's just gonna be a text right now. It will not show up on the map. That's really in case you have one of those big commercial farms come in, or you have confined feeding, or something like that that comes in. It would fall under that district, which just, again, has maybe larger setbacks and some of those items versus just your, your general agriculture, farming, and that sort of thing. Your next one then is you had a number of residential districts, R1 through 4, then you had a D1, an A8, and an MD. So those have been consolidated down into 4 different districts. So we have a rural residential, which is, again, your large lot, kind of feel like you're in the ag, but you're homestead instead. And then we have an R1, 2, and 3. And one thing to note, your manufactured home district is a use within your R3 district. Your commercials, you had 4 different ones. You had B1 through 3, and then you had also an office research. So we've combined those into a B1 through 3. Really the biggest difference in these is scale. If you think about your neighborhood commercial, that has a smaller square footage until you get up to your B3, which is regional, and that does not have a limit on square footage as well. You had 3 industrial districts, and we consolidated those down to 2, a light and heavy. And then you had a PUD. We've kept PUD in there for those uses that are those developments, subdivisions that might need that. Your floodplain districts, those really shouldn't live in your zoning ordinance. They should be a standalone ordinance, and I believe now they already are. So that's already taken care of, and it was duplicative, so we've not included those here. And then I-69, we've left that as well. We've only made some minor tweaks to make consistency in language or the way we measure things consistent, but for the most part, that has stayed intact as well. So that kind of, that translates into our zoning map. If you kind of, clicking too fast. I know this is not really intended to be read. I know that you should have received this hopefully as well, but it's more of the idea of those zoning districts we just went through. This is how it starts to translate. So we tried to keep the most similar district for those items. The only other changes to that zoning map that occurred were some established subdivisions were still zoned general ag. And if they do not have covenants, that means they could put a cow or, other farm animals on there. So those were moved to R1, and then there were just some minor errors or inconsistencies. There were still a number of unknown zoning parcels, so we've updated those as well. There's just a handful now left, so it was really making some minor changes. It wasn't making anything dramatic on that. So the second half of your chapter 3 goes through various use standards. So these are things like accessory dwellings or junkyards, or it could be wind or solar energy or wireless communications. Those things that might just need some additional standards no matter what district they fall in, they have to still comply with these regulations as well. So again, a lot of those are just meant to make sure that they do fit within that district or within, not conflicting with those neighboring uses within a district. And just kind of making sure, again, there's some basic standards to some of those. So I can go through any of those as well that you might want or like, but didn't want to get through. I didn't want to take too much time on your agenda. But there's a list of those additional uses that do have standards attached with them. Home-based business and home occupation were one of those as well that we did add in, just to make sure we can define that work from home is a different kind of animal, been redefined in the last 2 years almost, so. Chapter 4 starts to talk about your site standards then, so that's your parking, your landscaping, any of those types of things, including signs and storage as well. So again, some of those things were updated. I don't think anything was dramatically changed. We did go with a lot lower threshold for some of your parking standards. We talked to the local officials training, we talked about that in depth as well, and they felt that was an okay thing to do. So those additional standards that we did, or the site development standards, excuse me, are those 10 that are kind of listed on the screen there and listed in chapter 4 for you all. Chapter 5 talks about our subdivision types. So the only big difference here is that we've added one new subdivision type for you all, and that's an open space subdivision. So the idea is cluster development, conservation, subdivisions, anything of that nature. It's the same premise, that basically if you could have put 100 lots on a certain parcel under your current zoning, you can still put that same number of lots, but we're gonna cluster them together. We're gonna make them on smaller lots, but the catch is that you have to have the remaining land be open space, perpetually dedicated. So at least 35% has to be open space. It has to improve drainage, and that does have to be approved by the Drainage Board. The other things that you can use that open space for are things like recreation, environmental, if there is maybe a historic structure and the HOA would want to maintain that. It could be natural or passive as well. As other facilities, we've kind of left that open just in case maybe a fire district or school needed space as well, or a facility. And then other is approved by either the administrator or plan commission. So again, it's not going to increase the overall site density. It's just going to cluster those onto smaller lots in order to preserve some of that open space and provide amenities within that neighborhood. Chapter 6 are subdivision design standards. So we did work with the county engineer on this and pulled out some of those technical specifications in terms of where do control joints live, and how often should you have control joints? What is the actual construction detail for a curb? So those got pulled out into what the county engineer is doing as his technical standards, and then we do reference those multiple times in here. So this really starts to look at more of your technical standards from a platting process, which is where your UDO should live. Administration and procedures is our 7th chapter, so this goes through all of our various, how do we do what and how and when. So all of your procedures that come before this board, all of them that go before BZA, and then anything that's administratively approved as well. And the thing is to kind of note out of this is that looking at the changes, I guess, are that your secondary plats underneath the new UDO would be administratively approved as long as they're conforming with your primary plat. So basically, if you've already approved a primary plat before a public hearing by the Plan Commission, as long as that secondary plat matches it, there's really no reason. You've already approved it. It's just an administrative function then. So those would be administratively approved, and then the other would be development plans would be administratively approved as well, because again, it's not really a discretionary process. It's do you meet the standards, yes or no? And then it also goes into the technical specifications for your plats or anything of that nature. The other thing to note is that we do now require a traffic impact analysis that would just be required for larger developments. So again, if you're a small development, that's fine. and it's scaled all the way up. So I did throw those up on the screen in case somebody had a question on the traffic impacts, but again, if you're a smaller development, nothing's required. Moderate is just a statement of what you think you're gonna expect, and then a large development does start to look at what those actual impacts would be to traffic within the area. And our last chapter is just our definitions. So again, kind of going through and defining all of those various things and much more as well throughout the UDO. So I didn't want to take too much time on your agenda, especially since it's a full one tonight. I can answer any questions. We can minimize this and I can pull things up if you'd like. Ultimately, at some point, you guys would need to make a recommendation to the county commissioners on the UDO and then also on the zoning map. And I believe you wanted those as two separate motions tonight. Those will both go to the county commissioners for final approval, just like a zoning. So I'm happy to answer any questions or thoughts you guys might have.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Roger Nungester, would you like to speak? You signed up interested?
No, I don't think so.
Don't think so? Okay.
I would just like to look things over a little closer. I won't hear if we're gonna have another meeting or not.
This is our meeting for this, so the commissioners will have one too. So. Mr. Buster, would you like to speak? Will you need to come up to the mic, please? Because we can't get you on the recording without it. I need you to state your name, please.
Cheryl Buster. I would like to know, is this plan, this ordinance, a reactive or a proactive approach as far as violations?
As far as what, I didn't hear.
Is it a reactive where you get a complaint, you go out, or is it proactive? Are they going to hire persons who, that will be their full-time job, is to survey the county for violations?
No, we're not gonna have anyone hired to go look at violations, you know, to go find violations. Now, if we get a reported violation, we'll go out and.
So you're gonna react if someone complains?
Yeah, if somebody comes in and asks,
Right.
yeah, we'll go look at it, yeah.
Okay. And I have another question. On the one part, it says that RVs must be parked behind the house or inside. A lot of us who have farms, behind our house is pastures. And so I don't understand, if I have 30, 50 acres, why would I have to park my RV behind my house or inside something?
Have you got that portion up? Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah. Do you want me to be on the mic?
Yeah.
Sorry. So basically what we're looking at, RV storage. So residential storage, that's different than if you're gonna be agricultural or business industrial storage as well. So within agricultural RV storage, we allow for no more than 2 RVs per parcel, and just saying that they're not visible from a public right-of-way or an adjacent parcel. The idea there is, again, to help to prevent some of those nuisances that it seem to always kind of come back to the planning staff. And then within residential districts, that's your RR, R1, 2, and 3. We were allowing 1 RV per parcel, again, saying that's not visible basically from the right-of-way or your adjacent parcels. That is visible, excuse me. You can have 1 that is visible, sorry. So again, you can have, so if you're on an ag parcel and you can have 2 that are visible from those rights-of-way or adjacent parcels. More than that, if they're in a barn or whatever, that is perfectly fine as well. And then the location of those is that it just needs to be behind the front facade of the primary structure. So that would basically be rear or side yard as well. And the idea there is, again, just to try to keep those from being parked out in the front yards, long-term.
So,
That doesn't include like 72 hours for loading, unloading, you know what I mean, cleaning.
so it's just saying not to park the RV in front of the house then? Is that-
Yeah, so it's defined as it needs to be parked behind the front facade of the primary structure, so.
That's when you're
Right,
storing
storing
it,
it.
correct?
Yeah.
You know, that's a storage thing.
Yeah, it's
Did
when
that
you,
answer your question?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. That's all we have down to speak tonight. This will close the public portion of our hearing. Any discussion? The board?
I don't have anything.
None?
Looks like it's
My
been put together
understanding we
good.
need, pardon me?
Looks like it's been put together good.
We need two motions, my understanding. One to recommend the UDO and one to recommend the map, the new map, correct? So first of all, I'll call for a motion for recommendation for the UDO to be sent to the commissioners.
I'll make that motion to send the UDO to the commissioners with a favorable
Favorable
recommendation.
recommendation. Do we have a second?
Second.
Patrick, I saw him first. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now we'll call for a motion to send the new zoning maps, recommendation to the commissioners.
I'll make a motion that we forward the new zoning map with a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Justin, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The last part of that, I do appreciate those. I know it's been a really good process, and most of you guys have been intricately involved, more maybe involved than you have when we pulled you back in. The last thing was the fee schedule. So this is just starting to look at what fees do you all charge for your various building permits and other PC and BZA fees that might occur throughout the process. So we've worked with Laura to look at what your current fee schedule is. We've also looked at what are the costs actually incurred. So how many hours does it take to prep a petition, say a primary plat for a plan commission meeting? All the various staff time that's required in that to go through that entire process. So basically that's what starts to form the basis for your fees within your fee schedule. And again, that goes back to Indiana code in terms of making sure that it's directly related to those costs incurred by the county or the jurisdiction. So what we've done is we've gone through, again, and looked at your residential and commercial improvement location permits, which are your building permits, as well as any other miscellaneous ones, as well as signs, and then plan commission and BZA fees as well. So I'll pass these out here. But we have also then, it's not included on this sheet, but we did pull all of the surrounding jurisdictions. I always just like to say, okay, let's go ahead and do this exercise based on hours and what it's actually costing the county to do this. But then it's good to back check ourselves. We don't want to be, significantly higher than all of our neighbors. And we really were kind of right in the middle on most of these fees. So I think that's just kind of back check. But I'll pass this out. And then I know Laura said you either can leave this to another meeting. This one has not been advertised, correct, Laura? Okay, so it would go through an advertisement process, but you all can adopt this maybe at your next meeting that you want to, or whatnot. So I'll give you copies at least.
When is the commissioners meeting on this? Tomorrow? Tomorrow night at 6:30? Okay. All right, thank you.
Oh, yep, sure. And so you can see the first column is just your current fee that is out there today, and then the next is the proposed. So it was trying to bring things into consistency as well, so it's not like, well, a remodel is per 1,500 square feet and a addition is per 1,000 square feet, and yet it gets hard to remember, especially for staff. So it's trying to bring everything into a consistent base unit, and then also, again, making sure it did reflect the level of effort that's required to actually process these things, so. All right. Did you want anything else on that, Laura?
I'll add too that we did create tiers for re-inspection. It's a problem that we have a lot of. And we were just charging, and we have the ability to charge a flat $50 re-inspection. So we tiered that up, so first one, second one, third one, it increases so that it gets them to pay attention to building.
Yeah.
These are re-inspections after we go out and inspect it, and they've got their list of what to repair, and
Yeah.
they go back multiple times? Okay.
Or request an inspection and not ready.
Okay. Call in and be ready. Okay.
The only other couple of things we did change, you'll see it does have a 0, but we do have parking lot areas. Parking lots are now have a location improvement permit per the UDO or would. Cell towers as well. Those are something that, again, take a little more time and effort to coordinate some of those, but that would be for your building permits for that. And then we did also do a work without a permit. So again, you do your work and don't ever come get a building permit. That is then where there would be an additional fee paid because you didn't come pull a permit from the planning commission, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Are we gonna advertise that this month then for the next meeting? Okay. So if you got, look at that schedule. If you got any questions, please get back with Laura on that before we advertise. When you plan on advertising? Okay. All right, thank you. Anybody have any other questions at this time with form? If not, we'll move on. We'll move to item B on our agenda in new business, a public hearing for petition RP 2106 to replat. David Pierce is requesting to replat lots 12 and 13 in the Morgan Glen subdivision. Property is located in Madison Township at 9802 and 9816 North Glen Drive. It is zoned R2. Are you representing Mr. Pierce?
Yes, I am.
Please introduce yourself, please.
I'm Chandler Harden with Band Engineering, and I'm here on behalf of my client, and it's for the purpose of the replat of lots 12 and 13 in Morgan Glen subdivision. Our client owns both lots in the subdivision, and the purpose is to move the interior lot line, just for the purpose of building an accessory structure. We made sure that the R2 development standards. If you guys have any questions.
Those are large lots out there, 5.
They are, they're the
yeah,
state size.
Big lots. And this is gonna be almost a 2-acre lot, the new one?
Yes, and I looked at the standards, and the minimum standards for R2 was only like half an acre in
Yeah.
size, and so that's
Yeah,
still
so it fits
about
well
2
within the
acres.
R2, so. Any questions? Questions? Nope, no question, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
That's me. Pierce, would you like to speak? No? Mrs. Pierce, would you like to speak? I can't see you back there, no? Harden, would you like to speak? Oh, it's you. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. That's all we have signed up. This closes the public portion of our hearing. Any comments from the board? If no comments, I will call for a motion.
See a problem?
Do what?
I don't see anything.
Okay.
On item number RP 21-06, that we approve for a replat petition, Ms. Baum, as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hill seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Move on to item C, public hearing for petition RP 2107 to replat. Holloway Engineering, on behalf of Robert and Pitts, is requesting to replat lots 6 and 7 in Harmony Estate subdivision, the property located in Green Township, 4326 Centennial Road, Centennial Crest Drive, and is zoned A.
Thank you. I'm John Larison, Holloway Engineering. I'm here on behalf of Robert and Celeste Pitts. They're the owners of the home at 4326 East Centennial Crest Drive. They actually own both lots 6 and 7 in Harmony Estates. I'll refer you to your package from Ms. Parker. The subject property is outlined in blue, red letters, subject property. The Pitts family lives in the home on Lot 7. That's the lot to the east. You can see the Pitts are owners of what probably are the two largest lots in the subdivision. These lots tend to run, roughly from just over 1 acre all the way up to 10 acres in size. And the Pitts, lot number 6 is just over 9 acres, and lot number 7 is in the neighborhood of 7 acres. We're not here tonight to subdivide for the purpose of increasing density, nor are we here to subdivide to create an additional parcel. We are here to replat lots 6 and 7, again, both of which are owned by Pitts. They're simply scaling back and reconfiguring lot number 6 to be 1 acre in size, and then the remaining 15.9 acres are all being replatted into one single, very large lot number 7 revised. Their purpose for doing this is they've got a close family member who they would like to have nearby. They've expressed to me that they're getting older and they want to get older in place and want to have a close family member nearby to help them with that process. For those of you who are not familiar with this is just north of State Road 44 and East Centennial Crest Drive is a stone driveway, a private roadway in a platted subdivision. I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions, Mr. Larison?
Plans to do any additional buildings and stuff on this lot as it stands right now?
The plan is to put a home on lot 6.
6?
a single home site on Lot 6 revised, and that is the 1 acre out of the southwest corner of the larger original Lot 6. And I'll also add that this is the obvious place, obvious best place on large original Lot 6 to build a home. So basically what they're doing is selling the best part of the building site for the construction of the home. It's actually to their nephew.
I think, I might have misunderstood Mr. Roberts' question, but I think he was asking if there was any plans to build additional homes on this Lot 7 revised. I think there's already one
Well,
there.
It's on there already.
Yeah, no, in fact, I think our petition is evidence of the fact that is not the case, or we would have come in and actually divided Lot 6 into multiple parcels.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you. Mrs. Pitts, would you like to speak? You can speak, you can if you want to.
I am Celeste Pitts, the owner of the property. We have a horse farm there. There is no intentions of ever selling any more of the property. We have built our retirement home there. We would like a nephew to live next to us so we can age in place. Thank you.
Mr. Pitts, would you like to speak, or you're good? Okay. It's always the best way.
Mattingly? Is there a Mr. Mattingly? 4415 Centennial Crest Drive. We have someone signed up to speak.
Interested?
Can't hear you.
Newell? Nichols? Mr. Nichols, or would you like to speak? You want?
Signed up as an interested party.
I don't know if he really wants to speak.
Does anyone that signed an interested party like to speak, or you just want to? Would you come up to the mic, please?
Hello, my name's Dean Nichols.
Okay.
The biggest concern I had is the splitting of the smaller property is the effect on property values. Because most of the lots in that area are larger lots. You have smaller ones on the highway on 44. So I didn't know, that's my major concern is how it's going to affect the property values with the smaller lot in that area with all the larger lots around that. And that's the biggest concern that I had.
Question for Mr. Nichols? No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the only ones that?
Mr. Curtis, would you like to speak? Okay. right, we'll go to, John, did you sign up for this one? My concern was addressed. Okay, okay. We'll move on to people signed up for opposition. Mr. Church? Wanna come on up and,
My name is Jerry Church. I live across the lot from where he's wanting to rezone it. I live, I can't remember which one it was.
it's
Hang
to
on a
the
second.
south, across the
I
road,
live on the south side across from it.
on lot 12.
That sounds, yes, on lot 12. I'm just worried about it depreciating our value by zoning it to a smaller lot.
Okay. How large is your lot?
Do what?
How large is your lot?
Ours is about 2.5 acres.
2.5?
And also, I think they also own lot 10 out there too as well, across from the property that they live on.
Yeah, they do. Any questions?
How long you lived out there?
About 12 years.
Any other questions? No, thank you. Mr. McKinney?
Hello, my name is Levi McKinney. I'm new to the addition. My question is if he does continue with ideas of putting a house on that 1 acre lot, is that going to, one, decrease my home value, like what the previous homeowners were asking? And two, is that going to affect my well? Like if I'm gonna have any kind of issues in the future with that, if he does put a house on there and digs a well. Those are my main concerns. Yeah, that's my main concern at this time, if it's gonna affect that.
How long you say you've been there?
I bought the house in September.
September? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
Does your lot touch one of these, this one?
Yes, it's right beside it.
Lot
So-
5?
Your
Yeah.
lot 5?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. So yeah, that's why I was asking that, because we shared the property line, so.
Any other questions for Mr. McKinney? Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Aliff, would you like to speak? No, thank you. Mrs. Allen, would you like to speak? No, thank you. Okay. That's all we have. Mr. Larison, would you like a rebuttal?
Just quickly, would like to reiterate that at some point, there will be something happen on lot number 6. It's probably far-fetched to think that 17 acres in 2 lots, that something wouldn't eventually happen. The pits appear to be exemplary keepers of their property. I really would caution the neighbors that if they sell to somebody else outside the family, you really never know what you're going to get. There aren't covenants and restrictions to control the type of development. So the Pitts family, based on their track history, looks like a pretty good bet. Ironically, the Pitts family had a choice. They didn't have to be before the Plan Commission tonight. They did choose to come in and do this properly. It would have been within their rights to sell a part of Lot 6 separately to a new owner, and that owner build on that part of Lot 6, and they could have gone on their merry way, owning the rest of it. They're here to do it right, and we're asking for your favorable motion tonight. Thank you.
Their house built on Lot 7 now.
There is,
That's on the existing Lot 7, original Lot 7?
yes, the Pitts family, their home is fairly close to the property line.
Yeah, it looks like it may be.
Yeah.
But it is on 7 now, correct?
Pardon me?
It's on 7 now?
It is entirely on 7, and they also own all of 6.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, this closes the public portion of our hearing. Any discussion?
See that house located on? It's a barn.
I will call for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve replat position RP 2107 as presented.
We have a motion to approve the plat as presented. Do we have a second? Mr. Hale seconds. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Ready to move on? Mr. Larison, are you ready? We're moving on to item D, public hearing for petition MIP 2110 for preliminary and final plat. Holloway Engineering, on behalf of Paul Jones, is requesting to minor plat property into 3 lots. The property is located in Madison Township at 7769 East Hadley Road and is zoned ag at this time.
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of Paul Jones. This plat is for 65 acres in Madison Township on Hadley Road, just east of Mooresville. This division is pursuant to the last will of Linda Jones. Paul is the nephew of Linda Jones, and this plat carries out her wishes for the property. I'll be brief. The existing home, that was Linda's home, that is on a lot with 10 acres, is No changes on that lot. It's being lotted out as Lot 2 with 10 acres and going to Paul's son, Garrett. Lot 1 is 6.701 acres. That is a new lot being created for Paul to build his new residence on. Lot number 3 is currently a separate standalone parcel held in the name, again, of Linda Jones, but being sold on a land contract to Kevin and Denise Parsons. It was Linda's wish that upon her death, their 1.5 acres be augmented to up to 5 acres. So that has been carried out as Lot 3. It's 5 acres. And Lot 4 is actually a very large remaining agricultural field that Paul intends to sell to one of the local farmers to be farmed. Again, it's 65 acres. All of the properties have access to the county road and meet the county's zoning standards for ag lots. And I believe tonight we will have to rezone it, if I'm not mistaken, to R1. Okay. And they do also meet those size requirements for Lot 1 as well. Or, I'm sorry, for R1 as well. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Questions for Mr. Larison? Okay.
We're going to start immediately on the building and stuff like that.
Paul is here, he probably.
More of my retirement home.
Okay.
I'll sell my residence I live in now.
And that is the only planned structures, the home, the new home, and probably a pole barn on Lot 3, or I'm sorry, on Lot 1.
Any other questions for Mr. Larison? Nope, thank you. Mr. Jones, would you like to speak? You're good? Okay. That's all we have signed up for this petition, so that closes the public portion of this hearing. Any discussion? If no discussion, I will call for a motion.
Motion that we approve the petition MIP 21-10 preliminary and final plat.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Larison, you're back up for a rezone. Item E, public hearing for petition to Z2111 to rezone. Holloway Engineering, on behalf of Paul Jones, is requesting to rezone property from Ag to R1. The property is located in Madison Township at 7769 East Hadley Road.
And because we did minor plat the properties, we are required to rezone them to R1 and request that approval.
The R1 requirements, correct? So we're good there. Any questions for Mr. Larison? If not, this closes the public portion of our hearing. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a motion.
Kenny Helm makes a motion, we send it to the commissioners with a favorable recommendation on docket number Z-21-11.
Second.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Mills, second. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. to item F. Public hearing for petition MIP 2111, preliminary and final plat. Hollow Engineering, on behalf of Alberta Gregory, is requesting approval for a one-lot minor plat. The property is located in Madison Township at 7437 North Gray Road and is zoned ag at this time.
Thank you. Here on behalf of our Alberta Gregory. She is the owner of this particular part of the Gregory farm on Gray Road. I'm sure you're all familiar with the location, have a very large farm there, and this is actually the old house, old residence on the north end of that part of the farm that's on the east side of the road. We are simply dividing out that house so that it can be deeded to Mr. Gregory, Rodney Gregory's daughter, and they are here with me tonight if you have any questions for them. The lot is 1.6 acres in size. You can see it has a house and a small barn on it. There is a 30-foot wide access and utility easement off of Gray Road, and that is the existing old farm lane that services basically the entire farm operation as well. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Is that an existing easement, you say?
No, it is a
New
very
platted
old,
one?
existing old lane.
And you're just gonna plat an easement for it?
That's right.
Now, there's no living, is there a house? There's not a house on the south piece, is there? It's just barns and silos and such?
That's right, it is only farming structures.
Any questions for Mr. Larson? Nope. All right, thank you. Got one interested. Mr. Hoke, I believe it is. You got no questions? Okay. All right, that's the only ones we have signed up, so that will close our public portion of the hearing. Any discussion? I'll call for a motion.
Kenny Ham makes a motion, we approve the preliminary final plat MIP-21-11.
Second.
Do we have a second? Mr. Maxwell, do you second?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Back up again, Mr. Larson.
And again, because we did minor plat the lot, the 1.59 and 7 acre lot, we do have to rezone it as well to R1. And it does meet the county's zoning standards for an R1 lot.
Questions for Mr. Larson? It does meet all the requirements, correct? Okay. That's all we have signed up. So this closes the public portion of the hearing on the rezone. Do we have a motion?
To send to the commissioners a favorable recommendation for petition Z21-12 to rezone from ag to R1, the property at 7437 North Gray Road.
Do we have a second?
I second.
We'll give it to Michelle. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
ready for H, public hearing for petition MIP 2112, preliminary and final plat. Presley is requesting to minor plat property into 4-lot minor plat. The property is located in Green Township at 8215 Skunk Hollow Road and is zoned ag. Ms. Presley?
I just made that, didn't I?
Yeah, you made it back at your time.
So, yeah, I'm wanting, I've got 45 acres.
State your name on there.
Oh,
so
I'm
we know
sorry.
the record.
My name is Michelle Presley.
Okay.
I have the 45 acres. I'm wanting to build on one of them, and I'd like to release some of the other parcels and not have them under the mortgage for potentially giving to family in the future.
Questions?
Which lot are you wanting to build on?
4,
The
And
back
then-
one, the very back one?
yes.
So the smallest lot you have is almost 8 acres, correct?
Mm-hmm.
3 is 7.9.
Those two in the middle would be for my children, and then we'll keep the camp as the first lot as a recreational area.
When do you want to start this?
I'm sorry,
Anyone?
starting to build
Bill?
on lot 4 as soon as we get done here, yeah.
I see you do have a road maintenance agreement on there too, so that's good. Any other questions?
You say you do have a road maintenance agreement?
Plat.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have anyone else signed up to speak? So this will close our public portion of our hearing. Discussion. If no discussion, I will call for a motion.
Kenny Hill makes a motion that we approve the preliminary final plat for docket MIP-21-12.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A second to approve the plat. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Presley, up again. No, you're up one more time for your rezone. It's public hearing for Z 2113 to rezone. Ms. Presley, she's here to rezone the property we just approved. So. No questions? You just had to go through the motion here.
All right, very good, thank you.
No questions, no one else has signed up, so that closes our public portion of the hearing. Any discussion?
No.
If no discussion, I will call for a motion.
We forward a favorable recommendation for the R1 zoning request petition Z 21-13.
We have a second.
Second it?
Seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. You rezoned and replatted, so hopefully you can start on your house soon.
I guess the cost is going down.
A year and a half ago. $90 for 3/4.
We'll move on to item J. Laura, would you like to get up and speak a little bit on this? It's a continued discussion or review of draft letter for the Plan Commission to the County Commissioners recommending the abolishment of buffer zones.
So as you know, at our last meeting, we didn't quite have a full board, so we did discuss this subject at the request of council member and Plan Commission member, Mr. Maxwell, to discuss and encourage the commissioners to consider removing or revoking the buffer zones. And so you have the draft letter that was in your packet. It's the same one we discussed at the prior meeting. And the idea is that the buffer zones served a purpose back when the county didn't have planning and zoning, but many years and decades have passed. We do have it in place. Hopefully, we will have the most up-to-date UDO in place before the end of the year. The most current comp plan. We have extensive staff, and the county has a brand-new comp plan so that the municipalities don't have to be concerned about what might happen on their fringes. Plus, we have the issue of citizens and their impact by the buffer zones. Not only do they not have representation when they live in that no man's land, but they also have, I wonder if our battery's dying, but they also get bounced around between municipalities or jurisdictions on who's in the buffer zone, who's out of the buffer zone, and when can I get inspections, and when can I get that permit. So there's a lot of time and delay that being spent on that as well. And then we have the issue of departments that don't know when development is occurring in the buffer zones. In the reverse, the surveyor's department often isn't notified in a timely fashion about drainage for new development that's occurring, and many times our highway department isn't notified when new streets are being planned, so they don't know about it until sometimes after the fact. So we spend time and resources playing catch-up and trying to capture what is going on in those areas that the county wasn't informed of. So for those reasons, we feel like that's justification for encouraging the commissioners to re-examine this and at least bring it up for discussion again. And now that we have all of you here, except for Mr. Rumbaugh, who apologizes, he had a family emergency, he did say to convey that he is in support of this as well. But if you were at the last meeting, you know that already, so. I'll be happy to entertain any questions. I think you do have a few folks here who might want to speak on this request tonight as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, this isn't a public hearing, so we do have 3 people signed up from Monrovia that would like to speak. We will let you speak. Hang on, guys. I'll call you. Hang on. We will let them speak, but this is just a recommendation letter. We are not really, voting on any ordinances or anything like that. So this is just a letter of recommendation back to the commissioners. So, Kevin Collier?
Hello, I'm Kevin Collier. I'm the town councilman at large at Monrovia. I've been authorized to speak on behalf of Philip Fowler, our town council president, and Bonnie Inman, who couldn't be here either tonight. We are opposed to this. One of the reasons is, and an example here tonight, is we were under the impression that this was a vote. We have not been contacted in any way, shape, or form to tell us anything about this. We have just drawn up a new comprehensive plan outlining our town ordinances and our buffer zone areas. And we're really feeling that we would be opposed to losing our buffer zones at this time. And I just wanted to state that to you all.
So why are you opposed to losing your buffer zone?
We've just, our town's only a 1 mile square.
Yeah.
Okay? We've got our buffer zone around it. By the way, our buffer zone is represented on our planning commission and our BZA and in our economic development committee. With it being that short, anything that happens on our border affects everyone in our town. If we do not have any say-so in this, on what comes up there as like an IMI plant, it's going to be affecting our downtown area, which all of us are in. You get in a larger municipality, it may not be so important, but it is very, very important to our town.
Do you have a department? Do you have a planning department?
Yes, we have a planning
full-time employee, you got a planner?
No, we have a planning commission.
Well, then you don't, okay, you got inspectors? You got full-time inspectors too?
Yes.
Do you have a lot of buffer zone residents that come into the meetings?
Depends on what's being talked about.
Well, I'm sure, that's the way we are too, trust me. It's my understanding they'll be part of the tech review, correct? The towns will be,
Yeah, what we propose is that if the buffer zones are rolled back, that all municipalities, that buffer zone would stay in place, but not as a buffer zone, but more of a, I call it a communication zone. So if there's any petitions occurring in that area, then the local municipality would be notified. So we would be providing notice just like any other interested party, and would be able to provide input, just like we do with staff. And if you wanted to come to the public meetings, you're welcome to do.
Well, we were notified about this through the paper, but not as a public notice.
well,
It's
this
in
isn't a
story.
public hearing.
Yeah,
This-
right.
And all this is.
I understand, but
But
it
all
still
this is,
affects us.
but we don't take a vote on this at all.
Okay.
This is just a recommendation.
And again, that
And
wasn't clear in any information that we had.
And the vote will be, the recommendation will go to the commissioners, and it's up to the commissioners if they, and it'll be advertised in that if it's gonna be voted on.
Understand.
So it's a little different. This is just a letter of recommendation. so.
Understand.
But
Until just a little while ago, did not know that.
That's understandable.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is it Connor? Mr. Connor?
I'll be real short and brief.
Oh, you're fine. You got time.
My name is Michael Connor. I'm a resident of the town of Monrovia, but also too, I serve as the, on the Board of Zoning and Appeals, but also too, I'm the Economic Director for the town of Monrovia, which was, that position was just created this last year because we saw a need of our towns growing really well. The current census just was released. We grew 60%, that which is the highest the county has seen for an area. And I know that Laura and I have been on some calls before as well as Mr. Adams regarding the Hendricks County, Morgan County development. And there's a lot of growth that's coming in that area. And as you're all aware that with the development of Hendricks County just across the county line, there's been a big push for our area. So we're kind of very protective because like Kevin said, we have that mile square. So we were very in tune to what's happening within our jurisdiction. A lot of our farmers that have a lot of land in our buffer zone, they're very concerned, and they've been coming to the town council and the BZA and the Plan Commission to make sure that they have a finger on the pulse of what's happening. I know that other areas in the county, they haven't been as interested in what's happening, and they don't show up to meetings and so forth to convey their message. But we really want to make sure that, I know tonight's just a recommendation, but again, it comes back to communication than anything else. And before I got involved with putting the EDC together for the town of Monrovia, and also serving on the BZA for the last 5 years, the separation between the town of Monrovia is like a little island in the county. And so we want to bridge that gap. And I know that, Mr. Hale, you've been on some of those calls, and we've made some big strides. And we don't want to go backwards. We want to go forward. So whether it's repealing that buffer zone, if that's the case, we want to make sure that we're not left on that island and be forgotten, which has been the case for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And so last year I took on the initiative to redo our comp plan and get our UDO under control and our zoning. It hadn't been a changed since it was adopted in 1997, which is really sad. And so that's what my goal is, to get that taken care of. But we really need to have a more cohesive working relationship with the county and our town. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I appreciate your letting us speak tonight, and we appreciate your help. Thanks.
Mr. Moore, would you like to speak?
My name is Lauren Moore. I'm on the Monrovia Town Council and also on the Planning Commission. The one problem we have with activities down here in Martinsville is we don't hear about what's going on until after the fact. I don't know if you realize this, the newspapers don't get delivered up in Monrovia. Okay, I just received 5 of them from last week in today's mail.
Keith, are you hearing this?
Not a darn thing I can do about it. I can tell Madison Township, I don't have anything to do with it.
The newspaper company says that they have a new contractor who brings the newspapers from Richmond into Martinsville and Monrovia, and they're supposed to drop them off at the post office. They don't get it done.
They don't do it.
But anyway, even before this with the newspaper, activities were going on in the planning and all this that we have never heard of until after the fact. And the problem I see coming up with the county doing all the planning is that you're going to see all this that's going on here, and the people in Monrovia is not going to have any real representation, because I don't see anybody here that lives in the area of Monrovia. And now, on our planning commission, we have people that represent the zoning buffer, and, you know, they live actually there. And so if somebody, you know, is wanting to do something in the buffer zone, you know, they can go talk to one of the representatives for the buffer zone so that the message gets brought up into our meetings. And that's the main thing, is that, you know, what we have here now is 2 elected people that's on the planning commission here, and the rest of these people are probably appointed. And so, you know, you're right back into the same situation we have there in Monrovia. There are several of us that's elected, that's on the planning commission, but we also have appointed people that represent the town, and we have appointed people that represent the buffer zone. So that's my reason why we need to keep the buffer zones to so that the town can represent, be represented properly.
My question is, you can always annex.
That.
Well, you can, I'm just saying, that's one of your options, to annex. And if you want control of that, full control of it.
We're in the process of trying to get started again, but.
It's tough. It's a tough thing to annex. It really
They make it tough, but the one thing that we have in our ordinances is if somebody wants to develop something outside of the town area and they want the sewer system in there, they have to agree to be annexed.
Yeah, and they should, anytime you're giving them all their.
But the thing is that if somebody's already been approved for something, some industrial complex or something, and then they come and say, we're going to build here, I want to be able to connect to the sewer. But we don't have any choice but to, tell them, nope, you can't have sewer because, you didn't come through the town.
Any questions for Mr. Moore?
Yes.
No?
No, I'm none.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all signed up, guys. Any discussions? Sure, one more.
Many times in our video conference meetings, I've put forth that all these decisions that are being made about the area is actually on our doorstep. And most of you aren't there. We are. So we're very concerned and we do watch closely.
Any discussion, guys? Okay, do we have a motion to pass this on as a recommendation or a motion on the letter?
I'll make the motion that we send a letter of recommendation to the commissioners to abolish the buffer zones.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Justin seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? What?
I'm gonna abstain right now,
Okay.
not opposing.
It's just a recommendation letter to be passed on to the commissioners. Do you need us to sign it then? Copies.
We'll be good. Just need to really have a meeting on the city of Townsville for a commissioner meeting. What I'd like to see.
Anything?
Courtesy. Yeah. I mean,
If the county has adopted a comprehensive plan for that area, that is as comprehensive scope and subject matter that is affected by the municipality. So when you have a comprehensive plan, they've got a
Okay. Discuss with us tonight?
To circle back around to the discussion on the permit fees and the fee increases that you got tonight, just for a frame of reference, there have been very few amendments to the ordinance for fees, but in January 2004, that was the last significant change to the fees for building permits, like residential building permits. August 2007, there was an amendment to change the late fees to charge for people that started work without a building permit. And then in February 2012, you increased the fee for recording documents. So you can see it's not like you go crazy with fees and you're regularly updating these. It's been a long time. And obviously, everything changes, prices go up, expense and time and resources increase. So again, we tried to be middle of the road. We didn't go extreme one way or the other and just sort of brought some of ours up to be on par with neighbors in other areas and other communities similar. So just want you to look at those. We'll advertise it for a public hearing and bring that back to you at our meeting in January.
Okay.
If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Questions? Nope.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Next meeting is January 10th, next year. I'd like to wish everyone a happy holidays coming up. Enjoy it. Let's hope the snow stays away. I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.
No, unless we, if